Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Horror Room. I'm Travis Bruce, and today we have a returning guest. He is an author, and he has a new book out right now that's called To Hunt Wraith. Welcome back, the unholy corpse child, Thomas Stewart. Thomas, welcome back to the Horror Room.
It's glad to be back, Mr. Bruce.
Always a pleasure
Yes.
having you on, man. Always having a pleasure on. Now, tell us a little bit about To Hunt Wraith.
To Hunt Wraith. This one is special for a number of reasons, not the least which being the fact that this is my first ever full-length novel. Yes.
Congratulations.
At just under 60,000 words, this stands as the first ever novel-length work I've ever published. Everything else has either been short story collections or novellas, but not To Hunt Wraith. To Hunt Wraith started as a concept that was presented to me by a friend over at Reddit, because at the time, Corpse Child was still just haunting Reddit. And this was, of course, long before the days of Mortimer or our favorite Finding Pigman.
Yes.
Yes. This was long before that. But my friend pitched to me an idea, basically, where a man dies and is tasked by God to hunt down a bunch of escaped spirits. To me, it triggered a memory. And a lot of you folks at home who are perhaps a bit older are going to start losing your shit at how I actually know about this. But it reminded me of a very late... Tell me, do you remember a mid to late 90s TV show by the name of Brimstone?
I do. It had Lance Henriksen in it.
Now that I didn't remember. That I didn't remember. But what I did remember was the premise, which intrigued me a bit. And so that ended up becoming one of my primary sources of inspiration. So now, of course, our main character, Derek Lander, does not take his life, but loses it in a rather comical accident. And when I say comical, that's because this book, well, a lot of people have said that the main character is almost akin to Deadpool. Not in that his humor is necessarily raunchy, but he is a wise ass. And he was written that way intentionally. Because this is not a story necessarily of good versus evil or a chosen one set out to fulfill his destiny. No, this is literally just some random dipshit was caught up in an accident and is now all of a sudden thrown in, well, I can't really say a waking nightmare because he never even got eternal sleep, so...
See, I love this fucking story. So this also reminds me, well, except for it reminds me of Spawn. I'm a huge fan of the Spawn comic series.
Well, for me, I've only seen the HBO series, but yes, Spawn was also... Spawn, The Crow, and Brimstone were constant sources of inspiration that I always cited whenever I was trying to pitch this book.
Now, listen, Thomas, you write some pretty fucked up shit. Okay, if I can say it nicely.
No, I take that as full flattery. I'm gonna start putting that on my books now. You make some fucked up shit, Travis.
You do. I say that in the nicest way possible. It's a compliment. Should take it as a compliment. Now you have normally written novellas and short stories. Now, was it a challenge to write that full length? novel and get all that fucked up shit that you normally like to put into your books? Was that a challenge?
Not at all. In fact, I wrote this book in just over a month. Sadly,
Holy
it wasn't
shit.
during NaNoWriMo, though.
Yeah.
And so, going back to what I was saying earlier about Reddit, this was actually originally supposed to be a no-sleep series. But I kept writing and writing it, and I just thought to myself, do I really just want to huck this out here to Reddit? Couldn't this go so much bigger? And so I said, fuck Reddit. And I took to trying to query a bunch of publishers. For the most part, it went largely rejected. Until this year, of course, when God sent me an angel in the form of Crystal Bainham.
Unveiling Nightmare. Crystal. Love Crystal.
Yes, and I pitched it to her. And see, now it's funny you mentioned that. Normally I do write really fucked up splatterpunk. And you are correct for the most part. However, there is little to absolutely no gore in this book.
Really?
Yes, and actually, while my novellas have all been splatterpunk, a lot of my early books, ones like this little gem here, are not actually splatterpunk. These are more just psychological dread. And I also bring my first ever baby, Damned Whispers, up because what you'll find, to those who've read Damned Whispers and have gotten a chance to grab a copy of To Hunt Wraiths, you'll see that there is a returning character, I say, in the form of the End. Now, yes, go ahead.
Now, I was going to ask Thomas. Now, was that something hard to do? Because you were doing splatterpunk for a while now. You were pumping out stories with splatterpunk. For a while. Was it tough to switch it up?
Well, no. Well, like I said, that was actually at a time where I wasn't doing a whole lot of splatterpunk. See, this is where the timeline's going to get shifted. I really didn't start doing a whole bunch of splatterpunky stuff until just last year. Back in 2022, when I first wrote To Hunt Wraiths, I wasn't doing splatterpunk much at all. It was all like mainly paranormal and psychological horror.
So what made you decide to switch it up? I mean, what made you decide to go to the splatterpunk genre? Was it because it was something new and exciting?
Well, now at the time when I had first, like I said, okay, so I feel like to answer this properly, I'd actually have to go through the timeline.
Timeline. I'm curious.
All right, so it would start when I first started writing my very first book, Mortimer. That one was actually, I didn't know it at the time, but that one would actually fall under the extreme horror and splatterpunk banner. Now, when it came to what I did later, So I wrote Mortimer for about 6 months. I abandoned it for about 2 years. And in those 2 years, I started building my name on Reddit. Mm-hmm. And in that time, I wasn't doing splatterpunk at all. I was doing pure, just either religious horror, psychological and or um, paranormal horror, with the exception being, of course, survivors' accounts of the depraved funhouse, which
Great one.
has quickly grown to become one of my most popular titles. But aside from that, no, I wasn't doing a whole lot of splatterpunk. Um, so, you know, then 2022 rolls around, and I write to hunt wraiths. And like I said, that was during a time where I was I was more in my existential phase. Because one thing a lot of fans will understand about me is I am a diehard for Lovecraft. Especially his themes of existentialism. Because, and this is something you and I have talked about on the show a few times before, I believe, existential dread is a kind of terror that's unmatched by even just psychological or just straight gore. Is just the themes of, in the grand scheme of everything, you and me are nothing. We exist either because of an accident, or we exist simply to be devoured again.
Which is a fucked up way of thinking, but yes, I totally agree with you.
Well, that was an idea that had really stuck with me for a long time. But this book not only touches on that, but also confronts it. Because the story follows Derek Lander in his quest to destroy all of the wraiths sent by the force or the entity known only as the End. Now, the End is not a corporeal being. He does have a describable, or I guess you could say a definitive form that he takes on, but he is not actually a character. He is a force. That's why he's called the End, because he is the end of anything that ever was. And it is said that when we die, when our physical bodies expire, we do not go to heaven or hell. We simply just transition into the End, where we cease to exist, because the time for existence has to draw to an end.
Now, Thomas, do you fear dying? Do you fear the end?
No. No. Because I know when it is my time, I know it will be, I will go having made something of myself. That is why, though, I fight for my career as an author. Because I've said it before and I'll say it again, writing truly saved my life from myself. And I'm proud of that, and I will continue to fight for that. It's one of the only things in my life I was ever willing to truly fight for like that. But no, I do not fear the end, because it is only natural.
It's
See,
one of the,
go ahead.
No, you go. Go ahead.
So, see, here's the thing. my belief is that no man ever truly fears death in and of itself, because death is simply, you're just going to sleep.
Yes.
What man actually fears is either what will come after, or that there is nothing after.
100%.
Mankind, and I believe that the latter is the biggest of the two fears. Because man's biggest fear is non-existence.
Yes.
Mankind always wants to be. It always has to be. It cannot just simply not be.
Because that's what scares the shit out of me. So I see death on a daily basis. You know, I work in the death care, the funeral industry. And right. I think about death more than the average human being does, right? And I have, at 41 years old, I have accepted the possibility of death, which I don't think most people do. But what you just said, so there's two things about death that fucking scare the shit out of me. One of the things you just said, which is that non-existence. You go into blackness. You never. It's like goodbye. All this shit that's in my fucking brain, and all these memories, all these pains, all these lessons, everything that I've learned, it just goes kaput, gone, bye bye. That scares me, but the other thing that scares me is the suffering before death. It's not the actual act of death. It is, the suffering. Like, I see people who are in hospice for years, suffering and pain, bedridden. That part is the fucking scary part. How I am going to die. Is it going to be something quick and fast, or is it going to be suffering?
Well,
that fucking scares me.
Now let me add this. What's even scarier? The pain before death, or the pain that comes without death at all?
What do you mean? The pain that comes without death at all?
Yes, the idea that you will continue in your atrophied state, that you will be forced to live. There will be no sweet release of death, that you would have to see
and suffer. That would be absolutely this fucking awful.
This book will actually touch on that. The end, because of course, in the first couple acts of the book, the end is simply portrayed as the villain because, of course, why not? He wants to erase everything. He wants to erase any existence that ever was and ever could be. He wants to bring about the end of days, the end of creation, across every reality, every dimensional plane. Gone. However, the scenario is then presented. Oh, I should also say, disclaimer, spoiler alerts. Probably should have put that. But it's been out for about a week, so go get the fucking book.
Get the fucking book, motherfuckers. Yes, you can't talk.
But like I was saying, the situation does present itself because they are able to subdue the end. But then the question comes up, what happens in a reality? What happens in a brand new reality where nothing can ever end? It just simply goes on.
And that's more terrifying than fucking dying. I mean, to suffer. Because...
Just suffer. And because nothing... Go ahead. Sorry.
No, I was going to say, this might offend some people if I say this. But when you're in that state, are you really living?
No, you're
You know what I
not.
mean? Are you really
You're
fucking living?
alive.
Yes,
You're
you're
alive, but you are
alive,
not living. You exist. You exist, but
but you're
no,
not
you are not
living.
alive because you cannot evolve. Because for evolution of any kind, for any kind of development, the things that make life what it is, something has to end. But if you seal away the end, if you make a reality where everything just continues, nothing can ever, nothing new can ever grow because nothing can ever end long enough for there to be progress. You just stagnate. And then you've trapped yourself in an endless loop that can never atrophy, that can never be, it can never be, it can never end.
But Thomas,
So,
if you had an option right now to live forever, where you are right now, would you?
no,
Why not?
because the fragility of life, as I've just said, is what makes it life. The fragility of life, the fact that, because then what's the point of trying to reach new potential if you just peak? Because you have all the time in the world. And then, of course, to take a much more pessimistic point of view, what if things become horrible? Life becomes horrible. Not worth living forever or even another day. But now you've imbued yourself with immortality. Physical immortality.
But don't you think right now? I mean, I'm sorry. But,
Yes.
but don't you think even yourself as a writer, right? In the back of your mind, you know that, okay, I have to do this in a certain amount of time because I don't know how fucking long I have. So I need to do this a certain amount of time. But imagine, let's say, Thomas, you might write fucking 10 great books in your lifetime, right?
Mm-hmm.
But if you have forever, like, you might be able to become the next Stephen King. You might be able to become the greatest fucking author ever. Because I'm assuming over that time you're going to learn, you're going to perfect your skill even more and more and more, and you're going to evolve as a writer. If you have endless amount of time.
Or I will hit a plateau because I will just continue writing and, well, while of course I could possibly evolve, it's going to get to a point where people are just tired of reading Thomas Stewart stories. You know, just continuing to only see Thomas Stewart stories. Because if I'm immortal, that means I outlast everything and nothing new can come. You know what I mean? Nothing new can form because I cannot end. There cannot be a story.
But can't you reinvent yourself every 100 years though?
I could, but
it almost become a different person and live a different life.
Possibly.
Have new experiences.
Possibly, but even then, those would all grow stale. there comes a time where you've seen it all and you've done it all. Because while the human mind can be boundless, the wonders of the world are finite. They're meant to be. Because again, none of this was meant to be permanent.
Correct.
And I'm not speaking from any kind of Christian testimony, but nothing good, nothing can grow, nothing can begin again if nothing is allowed to end. Think about it. You tried to ask, can I not reinvent myself every couple of years? Well, no. Because I cannot end. I'm still going to be, in my core, I will still be the same person that I was when I first started my journey as an immortal.
But Thomas, but that's untrue because like, for instance, I'm 41, right? I am definitely not the same person in many ways, more so than not, when I was in my 20s. I'm definitely a different person. Like, if anybody who knew me in my 20s, completely different fucking person. Like, Travis Bruce in his 20s would not been able to get on a YouTube channel and have interviews. Travis Bruce in his 20s had self-esteem issues, and he was, kind of a super introvert. So, like, this is definitely a different, like, I wouldn't be able to do what I did, what I'm doing right now in my 20s.
You make a good point. You do make a good point. However, you reach that potential because you know that at some point you won't be able to reach it again. At some point you will no longer be around to reach any more potential. However, you take that away and you will naturally start to stagnate because there's not that innate sense of, I need to make something of myself. Because why? You're just going to outlast everybody anyway. So why bother?
Yeah.
But with mortality, there's a benefit because it spurs you on. You realize, I'm not going to be around forever. I might not be around to see the sun come up tomorrow. But I'm here.
But I don't think, honest to God, I don't think most human beings think about their own mortality. I don't think most human beings don't think about their mortality until they're good, old, and worn down. I don't think most people start thinking about their mortality until they're in their late 50s, 60s, 70s, because that's when they want to start going to church and become a born-again Christian, or find themselves, or, start getting life insurance and start prearranging their funerals and this and that. I don't think I'm 41. I don't think most 41-year-olds are thinking about dying. I really don't. Only reason I think about dying, and I prepared for dying mentally and even financially and so forth, is because I've seen it so much that, just in my own family. Like, my dad passed away in his 50s. My mom passed away in her late 50s. Like, I've seen cousins die. I've seen majority of all the men in my family have died, have not made it past 55 years old. And I'm 41. And in my brain, I'm thinking, oh my God, 55 is so fucking close. But I don't think most people think that way. I don't think most people think about their own mortality until they're pretty much either a doctor tells them they're about to fucking die, or they're old.
Or unless, and you just touched on this, unless they've seen it happen, unless they've experienced such a traumatic event.
Yes. I feel like that's a small percentage of people.
perhaps. In my case, it's because I grew up around a lot of kids who thought like that. Some of them will just say a little more morbid-minded about it. And then because I've seen it, because a certain family member acted on that mindset.
Yeah.
I won't go into that right now, but I've watched two family members try to. Only one of them actually succeeded. The other one, well, give or take, he couldn't hide it, and we were able to seek treatment. But in that instance, you start to realize a few things. For one thing, you start to realize that even the most religious people, or at least those that claim they are, that when they fall victim to that, you start to wonder exactly what happens to them. And you start to wonder if that's where everything just ends for you. And then you start to think about that a lot more. That, and at the time, even before that happened, I wasn't in a good headspace myself. I've mentioned before, I was suffering anorexia real bad. And for a long time, it made me basically want to curse the fact that I woke up every morning.
Wow.
So, yeah. While you are correct, the average person will not even consider that sort of thing until they're much older. They hit their midlife crisis or whatever the fuck. That's not to say that someone as young as me won't have devoted thought to that because of experiences they've had with it and experiences they've seen in others. But aside from just that, there also comes a benefit in it, because there comes a point where you start to wonder, okay, yes, we've established that even through all of this, you know, there is nothing to this. We're all going to go, and we may all just end up burning in the end. So you make do. You do whatever you can. You build yourself the life you want while you have it.
I 100% agree. I 100% agree. And I 100% agree. Because, I mean, one last thing I want to jump on this topic. I see a lot of motherfuckers who are in their 50s, and jump at people don't think. I see a lot of motherfuckers in their 50s, horribly overweight, high blood pressure, high cholesterol, smoke a carton of cigarettes a day, drink like a fucking fish, I mean, just a mess. And they do not think about dying. They really don't. And I'm like, damn, like, yeah. I mean, it's just. I think, but even the most religious people, which if you okay, if you believe in Christianity, right? Mm-hmm. If you believe in Christianity, you go to church every Sunday, and the sermon is literally about dying. They literally talk about dying every single Sunday, right?
Right. Well, and they also teach that life is meant to be a struggle until the point that you die. It's meant to, because compared to the eternity of heaven, this life is nothing more than just, a 30-minute ad or like a 5-minute ad special, right?
Yes.
So, yes, it is about mortality, and that's just it, though.
It's meant Christian shits their pants when you start talking about death. They do not want to talk about death. They don't want to think about it. They are afraid of dying, but they sit in church every Sunday talking about dying. And it's weird in American culture, because I've been to other countries. I've seen other funeral practices and so forth. We are one of the few countries where death is so fucking taboo. Nobody wants to talk about it. No one wants to think about it. But if you look at other cultures, they celebrate death. Death is a holiday. Death is something that they know is coming. They're thinking about. They're preparing themselves for. They know it's coming. But we are one of the few cultures, and we're probably one of the most religious countries in the world. And we put a stigma on talking about death. The death industry, death in general, is something we don't want to see about. We don't want to talk about. We don't want to hear about.
There could be a few different reasons for this. For one thing, yes, death is a taboo, because while in other countries, many of them will believe that the souls will be ferried into a better place, whereas Christianity teaches that may not be the case. Christianity would teach that only the good ones go to heaven, and the rest will burn. But Christianity is also a little more realistic in the fact that death does mean that person is gone from this world. Whereas other practices while other practices, death is celebrated, it's not necessarily, again, it's not death in and of itself that's celebrated, because they have practices in which they, to a degree, try to tether the spirit there so they can always keep a part of them. It's why they may not fear something like spiritual activity, because they know that, it's just Uncle Frank who passed away. But with us, we're just given the whole cold hard truth that death is just happening. And it's coming for all of us. And
it's going to be horrible.
And we may or may not end up in even more agony than we were already facing here on Earth. Now, understand though, this book actually To Hunt Wraiths touches on this directly. Mm-hmm. Because in the beginning of the book, Derek basically gives the rundown about his car crash which led to how he got into this whole mess in the first place, right?
Mm-hmm.
Later on in the book, it's explained he never actually died. He was taken out by the creator before he could die. And, he experienced hell. His spirit experienced hell. However, he wasn't actually in hell because there was no hell. There is no heaven or hell. He experienced a just pure, unfiltered manifestation of his own guilt. And in a lot of ways, that's what we experience. When people say they believe they are in hell, it's because it's a manifestation of their own guilt. It's a manifestation of their own weakness that they haven't overcome.
So, what's your personal hell, Thomas? Is it still being with Psychotoxin Press, or is it something else?
Are you trying to get us sued? I'm kidding. We all know you can't do that, buddy. If you are seeing this,
yes.
No, that's not my personal hell. See, a personal hell would be something I couldn't get out of.
Sure.
No. My personal hell is one that has stuck with me since childhood. And that is being completely alone, forgotten, never being remembered for anything. Just wasted. Being a waste of space on this planet to the people around me, especially the ones I care about. Just being a parasite. That would be my personal hell, sir. Being someone that did nothing that could be remembered, nothing of value.
God diggity damn, Thomas. The way you deliver things, man, it just makes me want to fucking jump off a building, man. Like it's like so fucking deep and dark, man. Like, have you thought about getting your own fucking channel or something, man? Like, I could sit and listen to you talk. I'm being dead serious, man. Do you want a fucking show on my fucking channel? I will give you a fucking show on my channel, man. And I mean, the way that your fucking brain thinks. Our interviews are always fun. Anytime you ask me to come on my channel, I'm like, yeah, sure. I don't even fucking think about it because I know I can just fucking. I know that the interview is going to go off the fucking wall into a dark fucking crazy fucking realm, but it's going to be fucking interesting as all hell.
I will keep you in mind on that, and yeah, I am going to hold you to that.
I will give you a fucking day if listen. If you want your own little show on my fucking channel, man, listen, I will fucking love you. We can sit there and plan it and put something together, man. I mean, I already got a fucking idea, man. Listen, I'm being this. I already got a fucking idea. Be fucking perfect. Look out for the unholy corpse child Thomas Stewart's fucking show on the horror realm. All right, listen. All right, one last thing, Thomas, I'm gonna hit you with. Mm-hmm. You have been dealing with a lot. I kind of hinted on it, I joked about it and so forth, but you've been dealing with a lot. And now you have found a publisher that, you know, you said that it was like an angel, it's a saving grace for you with Crystal at Unveiling Nightmare. Tell me about that. Tell me about that experience, and tell me about, you know, what are some things that, you know, that has made this a breath of fresh air for you.
Well, okay. So, for one thing, Crystal and I first started talking very early this year. Strangely enough, after I was kind of venting about some frustrations I was having with the release of Depraved Funhouse, she came to me and was like, if you don't want to talk, we don't have to. I'm just curious, what's going on? So I spilled the bean. I spilled the tea to her. And, you know, at that time, I had also submitted to her body horror 2 anthology, and she was like, I loved your story, it's being added. And I was like, thank you. And then just a light bulb clicked, and I was like, hey, are you taking manuscripts? And she was like, yeah, sure. And I was like, because if you love gross shit, I got one for you, pal. I got one for you, huh? And so she was like, Thomas, I just love the way you write. Like, you could write romance. I've got a gothic horror romance, kind of in limbo, waiting with Trepidation and Journal Stone. Nora. That's how we started for a month, writing a splatterpunk novel that will be coming out this Halloween.
Nice.
And then I started writing. Then I started writing an idea that I got from somebody on Facebook that has just breached 40,000 words. So, but then got sidelined because of another project that was an idea given to me by Ruth Anna Evans that I can't talk about right now, but it's one that I'm pretty sure a lot of you are going to be excited to see, because a certain porcine fellow may be returning. And I'm also trying to launch a new project with and Postmortem to create a collection of 3 of the most depraved novelettes the 3 of us can come up with.
Fucking love it, man.
So I'm caught between several projects right now. As far as goes.
And you're gonna be having a new one with me too after this interview. But listen, Thomas, where can everyone find you, my friend?
Yes, you can follow me on Facebook. On Facebook at my profile, Thomas Stewart. You can find me on you can find me on Facebook at my profile, Thomas Stewart, or you can join and follow my Corpse Child Sanctuary Facebook page. God damn, I cannot talk. You can also find me on Instagram at CorpseChild2001. You can find me on TikTok and Slasher at Unholy Corpse Child. And of course, you are always welcome to join me in the sanctuary at www.corpsechildsanctuary.com, where all of my tomes of terror are available for where ebooks are cheaper than Amazon, and signed paperbacks come with a bookmark and free artwork. Ooh. And as a brand new edition, I also have Corpse Child t-shirts.
I saw them. They're pretty fucking awesome.
Yes, a few have bought. A few have claimed one already. So yes, there is that in the Citadel. And of course, you may be seeing a lot more of me here. I am also, one more thing, I am also a host on the Dreadlibs podcast on Unveiling Nightmares YouTube channel.
Yes, definitely check out the Unveiling Nightmares. Listen, check out Unveiling Nightmares. They're fucking awesome. Crystal, love her. By the way, I've had a relationship with Crystal. Crystal has hooked me up with interviews and everything. I look out for her and that team over there. So, yes, Unveiling Nightmares. Listen, everybody, get over and grab your fucking book, copy of To Hunt WRAITH. This is the Holy Corpse Child's first novel, and it's not gory, it's not splatter, but it's psychologically fucked up. Thomas, this has always been a blast having you on, man. This has always been fun. It's always been fun.
Of course. I cannot wait for the next time.
Yes. Well, everybody, thank you for coming to the Horror Realm. I'm Travis Bruce, and that is the Unholy Corpse Child's Thomas Stewart. We will see you next time. Take care.